Okay, we've got one more function, actually two more, but one more related to the basic math stuff, which is division. So we need to come up with a way to call a division program. So the first thing that we want to do is let's go up here and grab our multiplication thing like we did before. And the reason's because we more than likely are going to be able to tweak it and make it do what we want to do. We're going to add this is our division. So we're basically just adding a comment there. And so we're going to say division. We'll call it division basics. Okay, so we're going to need two numbers. We're going to need a number that we're going to be dividing and another we're going to divide into. So we have a numerator and we have a denominator. And we're going, so the numerator is our number that will be on top of a fraction. The denominator is the number that's going to be on the bottom. And you take the denominator divided into the numerator is how this all works. So essentially, if you were to have a fraction here, if you had 1 divided by 2, then, and that slash is a way you denote a division. And there's obviously you can handwrite them by making a little box, which is the way you actually practice this longhand. But in the computer, we put a division like this. So we have a numerator of 1, a denominator of 2, which means that we are going to divide 2 divided into 1. So that's kind of the way that works. So now we want to keep these problems fairly easy to work at first, and then eventually we can come in and tweak our code and make it a little bit more complicated. But right now, I want to make sure that the number that we're dividing into the other number isn't more than 10, because I don't want to have a great big number that you're having to work with in the beginning. So we're going to make sure that the number we're dividing is between 1 and 9 for the denominator. And then the numerator, I'd like for it to be rather large. So we're going to go back to our 5-digit, is that 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to go back to our 5-digit numerator. So this means that some number between 1 and 9 is going to divide into 99,999. Now, dividing by 1 is kind of crazy, so we're going to start this with 2 because there's no point in doing a division by 1. So we're going to start dividing by 2, we're going to go up to 9, and then we're going to make the numerator be a fairly big number so that we've got something to work with. All right, so now we need to ask a question. So we're going to say, what is the numerator? And then we're going to change this to a division. And then we're going to say divided by the denominator. All right. And so that's going to be our question. We get an answer. All of the other code that we had before is all still valid. So we're just going to leave it alone. And then we're going to come down here. And so right here, we've got an issue because we had first number and last number. So we're going to take numerator and we're going to divide that by denominator. All right, and then if it's a good job, and then this down here is giving them the actual answer. So we're going to say numerator divided by denominator. All right, and so that's our function, and it's called division basics. And so now we're going to come down here, and like I said in the last video, we need to change this to 5 now because we're adding one more problem. We're going to come down here, and we're going to grab this if statement, and we're going to post another one down here to say that if x equals 4, then we're going to say let's practice some division problems. And then we're going to come down here to the bottom where we had our last function call, and we're going to add one more here. We're going to change this to division. And we're going to change this to a 4 because this is our 4th test that we've done. And then the function name is division basics. All right, so we're going to jump out here and try this out. So we're going to run our thing. So this is our multiplication tables. We're just going to quit out of that one. Here's some addition and subtraction, multiplication problems, and then here's some division problems. So right now we are going to divide 8,122. So 8,122 divided by 6. And so, and this is where we're going to have a problem, but I just want to show you what's going to happen. So this is 1353.66. And technically, if you were to round up, we'd say 67. So this is going to be the answer. We're just going to go to 2 decimal places on all of our answers. But you'll notice that when I put that in, I didn't get any kind of a response. It doesn't see that as being a valid answer, and it's just asking me another question. So let's quit out of this and see what might be going on. So the first thing is when you're doing a division, you're not going to be working with integers. The number you get back is going to be a decimal, not an integer. And so what that means is that when I come right here and I'm telling it to convert my answer into an integer, it's actually going to be the wrong type of number. It's going to chop that decimal place off the end, and it's only going to look at the front part of the number. So my answer isn't going to be right. And so let's jump back over here to our search engine that we were using earlier. And let's change this to Python float, because a float is, remember that where that decimal place is in the number and it floats around. So we call those a float. So Python float to string. So we're trying to see how do we convert a floating or a decimal number into a string. And so down here we have a float, an example, int or IMP equals this, and then print this. So it looks like, let's see, what the heck is this thing doing here? I'm not quite sure. Let's see if we can find something better than that website. Okay, so here we got pi equals this, and then print type pi. So it comes back and says that it's a float. And then it says pi in string. So it looks like you just wrap it with a string function to go this way. But we're wanting to print type pi in string. So you do use the string function to convert it into a string, but what we want to do first is let's see how we round that number, because we want to make sure that the answer is only 2 decimal places. So let's see if we can figure that out real quick. And so this looks like we just take round, so the function round, and then pass it in with a comma 2. So let's fix that real quick. So that means that we're going to get an answer here. And remember, answer is going to be what the user typed in. We need to convert that into a float. So we're going to convert that into a float so that we're now working with a floating point number instead of a string. And then we are going to say if answer was that, that, or that. So these are my error conditions. And then down here, so final answer is what the user put in. And then we want to convert this guy into a 2 decimal place number. So we're going to take the number that they typed in, which is up to 2 decimal places, and then we're going to convert the answer into this number to do our comparison to see whether or not they got the answer correct or not. So let's run this and see what happens. So we're going to save it. And so again, we're going to quit all of these guys. And so now we've got, do this math real quick. So we're going to have 49609 divided by 8. All right, so the answer to this should be 6201.13. And the actual answer is 0.125. And we might actually change this to being 3 decimal places, but we would round this up a decimal place in order to compare it. Now, when we did this, we've got an error here, and it says on line 128, if final answer equals float, and then, oh, I did that. Sorry, I did that wrong. I didn't mean for that to be float. I meant for it to be round. So let's try that again. So quit, and then division. So now again, we are going to do 87257 divided by 5. All right, so this is 17,451.4. All right, and so it tells me we did a good job, and it's giving me another question. So let's go 55,365 divided by 8. All right, so this is going to be the big test. So this is going to be 6920 point, and it's 625. So we're going to say 63 because we're rounding this to those 2 decimal places. All right. And so you'll notice here that it's actually saying that the real answer is up to 3 decimal places. So something when we're doing our round is not, or no, I tell you what the problem with that is down here where we're actually telling you what the correct answer was, we forgot to put round. So let's see what this thing is actually doing. 2. All right, so we want to, and I will tell you that when you start getting into rounding numbers with most programming languages, things can get rather interesting. So we may have to do a little bit of research here and figure out how to get the answer that we're actually after. So let's just try this again. So we're going to go 42,137 divided by 4. So this is going to be 10,534.25, and that is the answer. So it told me that that one is good. This is going to end up being a good answer, so I'm just going to skip it. So because I want something that's got some decimal places in it that go farther than 3 digits. So 650 divided by 8. So again, this is 3581.25. And so again, it worked. So 58841 divided by 6. Okay, so this ought to be a good one. So we're going to say 9806.83. All right, so that one worked. And the reason that worked is because I'm going to skip that one. The reason that one worked is because it was below 5 on the rounding, so it didn't actually have to round. So divided by 7. Okay, this one is going to be our test. So we're going to say 6911.4, and the answer is 428, but we're going to have to put in 43 because we're rounding. And it worked. So I'm not sure why that earlier one didn't work, but in any case, it is rounding correctly now. So we'll have to play around with this and see if there's some situations where this doesn't come back with the correct answer. We'll work one more here just for the heck of it. 81,587 divided by 8. And so this is another good one. So this is going to be 10,198 point, and it's 375. So we're going to have to put in 38, and it worked. So it looks like it's working. But if we run across something that doesn't work, the problems generally come into the way that the round function works. If it's rounding in a normal way, where if it's 5 or above, it rounds up, and if it's below 5, it rounds down. If it ends up that it, for some reason, it doesn't do that, because I know some languages don't do that. You have to give it an extra parameter to tell it to operate that way. So, but it looks like this is working pretty good. So we now have the ability to add and subtract, multiply, multiplication tables, and our division. So the last thing that we're going to start working on in the next video is trying to build some algebraic equations, and then see, and I'm not sure how this is going to work, but we're going to try to build some algebraic equations and then see if you can work out what the answers are, and see if we can put some cases together that actually we can tell whether or not they actually came up with the right answer or not.